So now we will be visiting the Chinese Railroad Workers History Center. Chinese railroad workers were a vital but often unrecognized part of American history, especially during the construction of the first Transcontinental Railroad in the 1860s. Their stories are now preserved in the Chinese Railroad Workers Center in San Francisco, California. Here we will dive deeper into their history. Who they were. Beginning in the 1860s, thousands of Chinese laborers, mostly young men from Guangdong, were recruited to work on the Central Pacific Railroad. Many had come to California during the gold rush and turned to railroad work as mining declined, while others left China due to war, famine, and limited opportunities, enduring a long journey to earn wages to support families back home. At its peak, Chinese workers made up about 90% of the Central Pacific workforce, contributing to the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, alongside Irish immigrants, Civil War veterans, Mormons, African Americans, and some Native American groups. Their work was especially critical in completing the difficult Sierra Nevada section in California. The Sierra Nevada, tunnels through solid granite. The most dangerous and difficult work on the Transcontinental Railroad took place in the Sierra Nevada, especially at Donner Summit Tunnel. Chinese laborers drilled and blasted through solid granite by hand, using black powder while enduring avalanches, snow, and extreme conditions. Many Chinese workers died in avalanches. Their bodies weren't found for months, but when they were, many still held their shovels and picks. They built 15 mountain tunnels, including the 1,658-foot Summit Tunnel, working from both ends in the central shaft, advancing only about a foot per day. The use of nitroglycerin briefly sped progress, but was highly unstable and later discontinued after the tunnel's completion in 1867. Crossing the West, hardships in Nevada. After crossing the California mountains, thousands of Chinese laborers pushed through the harsh desert conditions, including the remote 10-mile canyon, carving rail lines through cliffs and unstable rock in extreme heat and isolation. As the Central Pacific and Union Pacific raced toward Promontory Summit, competition intensified, with Charles Crocker claiming his crews could lay 10 miles of track in a single day. On April 28, 1869, a coordinated team of Chinese workers and 8 Irish track layers completed the feat in 12 hours, setting a lasting record, though only the Irish workers were named and publicly honored. From 1863 to 1865, the Central Pacific Railroad completed only 118 miles of track, slowed by the challenges of the Sierra Nevada. With the addition of Chinese laborers, construction surged, pushing the line 197 miles to Nevada. In the open terrain, progress accelerated dramatically. After 4 years to build 315 miles in California, crews covered 450 miles across Nevada in just over a year. Living conditions. Chinese railroad workers were paid $26 to $30 a month, far less than white workers, and worked 6 days a week while paying for their own food and housing. At first, railroad bosses refused to hire them, believing they were too weak for the work, but shortages of white labor forced them to reconsider. Chinese workers soon proved essential, often outperforming expectations on some of the hardest and most dangerous jobs, yet they still faced lower pay, discrimination, and hostility. Many white workers and supervisors viewed them as racially inferior, leading to harassment and even violence. They also lived in temporary tents under harsh conditions, unlike white workers who were provided rail cars. Major Milestone. Their labor was essential to the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad at Promontory Summit, Utah, where the Golden Spike ceremony marked the joining of the rails and the creation of a coast-to-coast United States. At 12:30 p.m., Leland Stanford drove the final spike, signaling the railroad's official completion. As news spread rapidly across the country, their presence was absent from iconic photographs of the event. Although Chinese workers physically laid much of the final track, and historical accounts note that 8 of them completed the last rail connection, and their central role was largely overlooked in public memory. After the railroad. Within the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, some Chinese workers returned to China, but many remained in the United States, continuing railroad work across the country and even helping build Canada's Transcontinental Line. Others shifted to farming, mining, logging, or opened small businesses, often settling in West Coast Chinatowns and factories. Despite their contributions, discrimination intensified. Even Leland Stanford, who had relied heavily on their labor, later referred to Chinese workers as an inferior race and supported their exclusion after the railroad's completion. Chinese workers faced increasing discrimination, violence, and restrictive laws that limited where they could live and work. Federal policies such as the Page Act of 1876, the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, and the Scott Act of 1888 severely restricted immigration and even prevented many from returning to the United States, leading to widespread exclusion and a sharp decline in Chinese population. Despite this, some pioneers challenged these injustices in court, resulting in the landmark rulings like Chi Lung versus Freeman of 1876, which affirmed federal control over immigration, and United States versus Wah Kim Ark 1898, which guaranteed birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. Today, Chinese railroad workers are recognized as vital builders of the American West, shaping transportation, commerce, and migration across the nation, despite long being overlooked in mainstream history. Their work stretched across the Sierra Nevada, Nevada's desert canyons, and the final stretch of the Promontory Summit, forming a continuous legacy along the Transcontinental Railroad's path. They were the backbone of its construction, transforming the United States while receiving little acknowledgement at the time. Madame Florence Fang donated the building to establish the Chinese Railroad Workers History Center. These focus on the historic Golden Spike that represents the completion of the magnificent Transcontinental Railroad. Madame Fang's hand-drawn sketch of the main exhibit's original design. It showcases her personal touch in the creation of this masterpiece. Now, organizations and public history efforts, including the Chinese Railroad Workers Center, are helping restore their story to its rightful place at the center of American history. The center documents oral histories, artifacts, and community stories to ensure the labor of Chinese workers is not forgotten. Alright, that's it for the Chinese Railroad Workers History Center and the history behind the Chinese Railroad Workers. Until next time, to travelers explore history. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe. Bye! If you like our videos, please click thumbs up for like.
Hit the bell to subscribe!
Please comment.
And don't forget to share!